Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a case today that I think a lot of you have probably heard of, but might not know all that much about it. It's chilling and it's been unsolved for decades. We're headed to Tokyo, New Year's Eve, 2000.
Oh yeah, I know this one. A tough one.
Yeah. So picture this: the dawn of a new millennium, right? And in a quiet, leafy suburb, an entire family is found murdered in their home.
The
The
Miyazawas.
Miyazawa family. And the brutality of this crime, it really shocked Japan.
Yeah, Japan has an incredibly low crime rate, so this really sent shockwaves through the country.
Right, it really did. And what's even crazier is that the killer left behind so much evidence, like clothes, DNA, footprints, just a ton of stuff.
You would think that would make it an open and shut case.
Right, exactly. But over 2 decades later, it's still unsolved.
Yeah. This is one of those cases that just stays with you. I mean, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about safety and security.
Yeah.
It's a real deep dive into the darkest corners of the human mind.
Well, and not just the mind of the killer, but also, I mean, we're going to be talking about the cultural impact of this case and how a society grapples with a crime that really shattered its sense of security.
Absolutely.
So let's start by just getting to know the Miyazawa family a little bit. The father, Mikio, was 44 years old, and he was an animator.
Oh,
His wife, Yasuko, was 41, and she was a teacher. She also ran a cram school from their home.
a cram school.
Yeah, well, like a tutoring, like after-school tutoring type thing. And they had two kids, Nina, who was 8, and Ray, who was 6.
So a pretty typical family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a seemingly normal, happy family living in the suburbs.
And that's why this case is so unsettling.
Yeah.
Because it really hit at the heart of what Japanese society values most, family. The Miyazawas represented this ideal, right? A loving family, a peaceful life. And for this to happen to them, well, it just violated everything people believed in. It wasn't just a tragedy, it was like a fundamental betrayal.
Yeah, absolutely. And their living situation adds another layer to this. They were practically living in a park.
In a park.
Yeah, it was one of the few houses left in this area that was being like converted into a public space.
Oh, wow.
And actually they were planning on moving soon, partly because they were getting noise complaints from a nearby state park.
So they're living in a park next to a skate park, about to start a new chapter,
Right.
and then this happens.
Yeah. Makes you think, like, what if they had moved sooner?
Right,
Right?
it's chilling. Absolutely chilling.
It really is. Okay.
Right,
So
Paul.
let's step inside the Miyazawa home now. It was a 3-story house. Mikio's study was on the ground floor. The kids' bedroom was on this like mezzanine level, and then the living area and the parents' bedroom were up on the second floor. It was Yasuko's mother, Haruko, who discovered the murders that morning.
Oh, man. I can't even imagine walking into that.
It's just it's horrifying to even think about. So she found Mikio first. He was at the bottom of the stairs, lying in blood. Then she went upstairs and she found Yasuko and Nina. And then finally she found little Ray in his bed.
Just awful.
Everywhere you look, there were signs of a struggle, like furniture was overturned, there were bloody bandages. Mikio had been stabbed multiple times. Yasuko and Nina were strangled. And Ray, well, the way he was killed was just incredibly brutal.
Yeah, that kind of violence, the
Yeah.
excessive force used, it speaks volumes.
Mhm.
In criminology, we call this overkill. It often suggests that there's a deep rage, a personal animosity fueling the attack. It goes way beyond just silencing the victims.
Right.
It's about inflicting pain. It's about expressing hatred.
And what's really disturbing is that the killer didn't just flee after the murders. He stayed in the house for hours.
He stayed.
Yeah. He ate their food. He used their computer. He even, he used the bathroom.
Why would he do that? I mean, what would be the point of lingering like that?
Oh, that's one of the biggest mysteries of this case.
Right.
Some experts think it points to a need for control, like a desire to dominate the space and the victims, even after death, which is just, I mean,
A truly chilling thought.
yeah, it is. It's a chilling
That
thought.
gives you a glimpse into the mind of someone who's deeply disturbed.
Right. And then there's all the evidence that was left behind, like a mountain of evidence. We're talking discarded clothing, a sweatshirt, a hat, a scarf, gloves, even a hip bag. Footprints with a distinct pattern. They think they might have been military boots. And then, of course, there's the DNA.
Yeah. It's unusual to have this much evidence in a murder case, especially
Yeah.
one this violent.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think it'd be easy to solve, right?
Right.
But here we are. It's a puzzle with all the pieces, but nobody can figure out how to put it together. So much evidence, right? But still unsolved.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's baffling. Let's talk about what the police thought at first. You think robbery. Right.
Seems logical. House was ransacked. Some cash was missing.
Right. Seemed pretty straightforward, but
But it unraveled pretty quickly, didn't it?
it did. It became pretty clear that this wasn't your average robbery.
Yeah, they left valuable stuff behind. Jewelry, bank books.
Right. And then there's this weird detail. Some of the writing at the scene, it looks like the killer could read Japanese.
Interesting. That suggests they might have known something about the family, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, maybe not a random act, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the killer knew the Miyazawas, or at least knew something about them.
Right. Which brings us to the leads. And man, the police looked into some interesting stuff.
We're talking Japanese biker gangs, right?
Oh, yeah. The Bachuzoku. Remember those footprints? The distinct pattern.
Yeah, the ones that maybe came from military boots?
Exactly. They thought, hey, maybe this is a Buchuzoku thing.
For those of us who aren't familiar with Japanese biker gangs, what are we talking about here?
So the Buchidoku, they emerged after the war. Kind of like rebels, rejecting mainstream society. Known for their motorcycles all tricked out their clothes and just being loud and rowdy. And get this, Mikio had some run-ins with the local Gushoku group before the murders.
No way. So we've got a potential motive, we've got maybe a footprint match.
Right. It's dramatic, isn't it? But nothing concrete ever linked him to the crime scene.
Oh, man. Too bad. Okay, this next lead, this one always creeps me out. The guy watching Nina at her ballet and piano lessons.
Yeah, just thinking about that, it's every parent's worst nightmare.
Makes you think about all the kids out there, right? And the creeps who might be watching them.
Yeah.
So the police, they looked into that hard, but dead end. Nothing panned out.
Frustrating, right?
Totally. And then just when you think it can't get weirder, people start reporting the suspicious guy lurking around the house, around the train station, right around the time of the murders.
Eyewitness accounts, though. Tricky, right?
Right.
Especially in a case this big. Everyone wants answers. There's so much pressure. Sometimes people misremember things, or, maybe they feel like they got to say something that fits, even if they're not totally sure.
Makes sense. Okay, now this next part, it's gruesome, so fair warning.
Oh, no. What now?
So before the murders, people find all these mutilated caps in the neighborhood.
Oh, God. That's awful.
Right, adds a whole other layer of creepiness to this, right? But turns out it was totally unrelated.
Really?
Yeah. The police found the guy, some bank clerk with some problems, not the Miyazawa killer.
Wow, okay. So far we've got leads, theories, dead ends.
Yeah.
It's like every clue leads to another question.
It's a mess, but then things take a turn, a big one. We're going international. We're heading to South Korea.
Ooh. Now this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. Okay, so one of the most important pieces of evidence, a pair of sneakers. Schlesinger sneakers.
Ooh.
The killer was wearing them.
Okay. Sneakers. What's so special about that?
These sneakers were only sold in South Korea.
Whoa. Hold on. Only in South Korea. That's a pretty huge clue.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. Soil was found in the killer's jacket.
Okay, so we've got the sneakers. What about the soil?
It matched soil samples from Seoul.
Wow. Okay, so now we're talking sneakers from South Korea, soil from South Korea. Did they ever get a DNA match to anyone in South Korea?
Well, no exact match, but the analysis did give them clues about the killer.
Like what?
They think his father could have been Korean, Chinese, or Japanese, and his mother, maybe from somewhere in Southern Europe.
Man, this case just keeps getting more and more complex. So many different cultures all tangled up in this horrible crime. Did that lead to any solid suspects in South Korea?
Well, it led to one very specific and very controversial theory. A journalist named Fumiya Ichihashi, he had some thoughts, but we'll get into that after the break. So, South Korea, sneakers, soil samples, and this journalist, Fumiya Ichihashi, he had a theory, right?
Yeah, a bold one. He wrote a whole book about it, actually. He thought the killer was Lee In-en,
Lee In-en.
a former South Korean soldier
Mhm.
turned assassin.
Whoa, okay, hold on. An assassin? That's a big jump. What made him think that? Did he find some kind of secret connection that the police missed?
He claimed he found a fingerprint at the crime scene, a match for Lee In-en, and, the brutality of the murders. Ichihashi connected that to In-en's methods as an assassin.
So a fingerprint and a kind of similar style. What did the police think about that? And Mikio's father,
They were skeptical.
why? Was there something wrong with the fingerprint?
It was never officially verified, as far as I know. And some of the other connections, well, they felt a little thin. Investigative journalism, it can be great. Sometimes it really gets to the truth,
Hmm.
but you got to be careful, right? Not every lead is the answer, even if it sounds exciting.
Right. It's a good reminder to be critical, even when things seem to fit. So this South Korean connection, it added a whole other layer to the case, but it sounds like it didn't really get them any closer to solving it. And for a while, it looked like they were going to run out of time because of Japan's statute of limitations.
Yeah, at the time, they only had 15 years to prosecute murder cases. Can you imagine that? The family, knowing that if they don't catch the guy by 2015.
It's heartbreaking, knowing that justice could just slip away because of a technicality.
Exactly. And that's where the Sorinokai organization comes in. Remember them.
The families of unsolved murder victims.
Yeah, they fought so hard. Mikio's father was part of it, and Yasuko's sister, Anne. They wanted to get rid of the statute of limitations altogether. It just didn't seem right that time could be a barrier to justice.
And they succeeded, didn't they?
They did. In 2010, Japan abolished the statute of limitations on murder, and they even made it retroactive, which meant it applied to old cases, like the Miyazawa case, a huge victory.
That's incredible. It's amazing how powerful grief can be, how it can fuel real change.
Absolutely. It shows that even in the face of such tragedy, people can come together and fight for justice. It gives me hope, honestly.
Me too. So what about the Miyazawa house? What happened to it after the murders?
It's still standing. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government owns it. It's been under a preservation order for years, but there's been talk of tearing it down. Safety concerns and all that.
Yeah, I can see both sides. On the one hand, it's a piece of history, and who knows, maybe there are still clues there, right? But on the other hand, it must be a constant reminder of that horrible day. For the family, for the community.
Right. And that's where Anne, Yasuko's sister, comes back into the story. She wants to keep the house standing. She thinks there might be evidence there that everyone missed. She even opened it up to the public for a while, hoping someone might notice something the police didn't.
Wow. Can you imagine walking through that house, knowing what happened there?
It must be incredibly difficult. A chilling reminder of the impact of this crime, not just on the family, but on everyone.
Then there's that detail about the kids. Their height measurements still marked on the wall.
Oh, yeah. It's heartbreaking. A symbol of their lives cut way too short.
So, will the Miyazawa family ever get justice? Will we ever know who did this?
It's hard to say. Even with all the technology we have now, the DNA, the dedicated investigators, the trail's gone cold. But you never know. Maybe someone will come forward with new information. Maybe someone will see the evidence in a new way.
Yeah, there's always hope. Well, that's the story of the Miyazawa family, a tragic case that reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the hope for justice never truly fades. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's a story that stays with you. The Miyazawas, their lives, the mystery. It's a reminder that behind every case, there are real people, real families whose lives are forever changed.
It's a reminder to cherish our loved ones, to appreciate the moments we have, and to never give up hope for answers, for justice.